Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm your host, and I'm here with our resident sports history expert to unpack something truly incredible.
Hey everyone, I am really excited to get into this one. It's a fascinating topic.
Yeah, it really is. So, to start us off, I need you to do a little visualization exercise with me. Picture this.
Okay, I'm ready.
It's the late 1930s. It's a Saturday morning. You are a college athlete. You wake up and you force down this totally bland breakfast because sports nutrition at this point basically consists of just steak and eggs.
Right, a heavy, greasy breakfast.
Exactly. So you head to the stadium, you strap on a leather helmet that honestly offers about as much protection as a cardboard box.
Oh yeah, the gear was basically just thick sweaters and
Yeah, heavy wool pads.
yeah.
And you go out there and you play a full, brutal 60 minutes of American football.
And we really need to clarify here, we aren't talking about modern spread offenses, where you run out of bounds to stop the clock and avoid a hit.
Right.
We are talking about 1930s grinded out 3 yards in a cloud of dust football.
Yeah.
You're playing offense and defense. Yeah. You are hitting people and you are getting hit on every single play.
So the final whistle blows. You are covered in mud. You are bruised all over. Your adrenaline is crashing. You probably have a mild concussion, though obviously nobody would call it that back then.
I mean, I'd be looking for a stretcher at that point.
Exactly. Most human beings would be looking for a hospital or a week of bed rest. But the guy we are talking about today, he doesn't go to the hospital. He takes a quick shower to wash off the mud. He grabs a bite to eat. Then he literally walks over to the gymnasium, laces up a pair of canvas sneakers with zero arch support, and plays an entire college basketball game.
Wow.
On the exact same day.
See, it sounds like a tall tale.
Yeah.
It sounds like something a grandfather invents to impress his grandkids at Thanksgiving. But this is the actual recorded history of William Dolly King.
And that is exactly why we are doing this deep dive today. We are looking at a man who is arguably the most versatile athlete New York City ever produced. And yet, he is largely a ghost in the history books.
It's what I call the prehistory problem. We get so obsessed with the modern NBA, the modern NFL, that we completely forget the titans who actually built the foundation.
For sure.
Dolly King wasn't just a multi-sport athlete. He was a pioneer who helped break the color barrier in professional basketball. He was one of the handful of African Americans to play in the NBL.
The National Basketball League.
Right, the NBL, which is the direct ancestor of the NBA.
And we're pulling this story today from historical records, newspaper archives from the era, and the Wikipedia entry for Dolly King. We really want to piece together a career that honestly just doesn't make sense when you look at it through a modern lens.
It completely defies modern logic. Today, we have, load management where guys sit out games simply because they played the night before.
Right, to rest their knees.
Exactly. And here is Dolly King playing two entirely different, highly physical sports in one day. It's just a completely different species of athlete.
Let's go back to that Iron Man legend for a second, because I want to make sure people know this actually happened. This was at Long Island University, LIU Brooklyn, where King was a massive star. The story comes directly from his coach, Claire B.
And we should note that Claire B is a highly credible source. He was an innovator, a Hall of Fame coach. He's not the kind of guy who is prone to just making things up for press.
Right.
He specifically claimed King played a grueling football game against a tough opponent and then literally suited up for the basketball team that exact same night.
I really want to dwell on the physiology of that. I'm just stuck on the transition. How do you go from the heavy collision-based bracing of football to the fine motor skills of basketball?
Well, that is the major takeaway right there.
Correct.
It isn't just about cardio endurance. It is about your nervous system. In football, you are constantly tightening up. You are bracing for impact.
Your muscles are dense, contracted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But basketball requires fluidity. It requires a soft touch, loose hips, lateral quickness to switch your body from like car crash mode to ballet mode in the span of maybe 3 hours.
Yeah.
That is physiologically baffling.
And he wasn't doing this with modern recovery tools. There were no cryotherapy chambers. He didn't have an electrolyte hydration plan.
He probably had an orange slice and some water, maybe a salt tablet if he was really lucky.
Yeah.
And remember the gear we talked about. In the 30s, uniforms were wool. When wool gets wet with sweat or rain, it gets incredibly heavy. He was likely carrying an extra 5 to 10 pounds of pure water weight on his body during the football game.
Oh, that sounds miserable.
Right. To shed that wet gear and then run up and down a hardwood court for 40 minutes, it speaks to a level of physical conditioning that I don't think we even have a metric for today.
It definitely helps that he was built like an absolute tank. The stats we have list him at 6'4", 215 pounds.
Which really requires some historical context.
Oh. Right, because if I see a 6'4" guy walking down the street today, I just think, oh, maybe he played high school ball. I don't immediately think he's a giant.
But in 1939, he was a leviathan.
Yeah.
The average height for an American male at that time was around 5'8".
Yeah.
In basketball, the centers, the big men on the team, were often just 6'4" or 6'5".
Wow.
So King was the size of a center, but he had the speed and athleticism of a guard. Imagine LeBron James playing in a league where the average player is the size of a modern horse jockey.
That's a great visual.
That is the physical disparity we were talking about here.
So he just dominates at LIU.
Yeah.
He is this multi-sport phenomenon. But then college ends.
Yeah.
And this is where the story shifts from a triumphant sports hero narrative to harsh societal reality.
Right. Yes.
It's the early 1940s. He is black. The NBA doesn't exist yet. And the major professional leagues that do exist aren't hiring people who look like him.
This is the era of the pivot. If you were an elite African-American athlete back then, you didn't have a glitzy draft day. You had to hustle.
You had to find a way to get paid.
Exactly. You had to go to where the games were, and that meant the all-black barnstorming teams.
Barnstorming. We hear that word a lot in sports history, especially regarding this era. But can we define what that actually looked like for the listener?
Sure. It is definitely not a luxury tour bus. It's 5 or 6 guys piling into a station wagon or a sedan. You drive 200 miles to a small town.
Just cramming into a car.
Yep. And you might play in a high school gym or a dance hall or sometimes literally a barn that just has hoops nailed up to the rafters. You play the local team, you split the gate money with them, and then you try to find a place to sleep.
Which was a major issue.
A huge issue.
And
because of segregation, local hotels often wouldn't take you. So you slept in the car, you woke up the next morning, drove another 100 miles, and did it all again.
And this is exactly where Dolly King goes to work. He joins the New York Renaissance, commonly known as the Rens.
The Rens are absolute royalty in basketball history. They were specifically the first all-black, fully professional, African-American-owned basketball team. And because they played together constantly, we're talking hundreds of games a year, they developed a style of play that the white teams just couldn't match.
What was that style called?
They called it the Fancy Dan style.
Yeah.
It was all about quick passing, weaving, cutting to the basket. They actually didn't dribble very much because the basketballs back then were often lopsided and the floors were incredibly uneven.
Oh, that makes sense. You can't trust the bounce.
Exactly. So they passed. It was a beautiful, fluid, incredibly fast-paced game.
So King is out there cutting his teeth with the Rens, and later he plays for the Washington Bears, which was another powerhouse all-black team from 1941 to 1946. This whole circuit is essentially a shadow league.
It was the incubator for the modern game. While the white leagues were playing a very rigid, flat-footed, set-shot style of basketball, the Black Fives, as they were often called, were innovating.
They were pushing the pace.
They were playing a faster, much more athletic game. Dolly King was right there in the laboratory where modern basketball was being invented, even if the mainstream white press largely ignored it at the time.
But that wall of segregation had to crack eventually. And for Dolly King, that crack finally appears in 1946.
The post-war era. Everything in America is changing. The National Basketball League, the NBL, makes the decision to integrate.
This is a huge, huge moment. This is before Jackie Robinson even plays his first game for the Dodgers, right?
It is. The NBL actually integrated a full year before Major League Baseball. And King gets the call. He is signed by an owner named Lester Harrison to play for the Rochester Royals.
The Rochester Royals, who, for those of you connecting the historical dots at home, are the exact franchise that eventually moves and becomes the Sacramento Kings in the modern NBA.
Correct. So we are talking about Major League franchise history here.
So King plays 41 games for the Royals in that 1946-47 season. Now, I was looking at the historical box scores for this deep dive, and I saw a number that stopped me cold.
Let me guess. The scoring average.
Yes. He averaged 4.0 points per game.
I can already hear the modern basketball fans groaning.
I mean, 4 points. Today, if you average 4 points, you are the 12th man on the bench. You only play in garbage time. Was he actually a good player, or was signing him mostly a publicity stunt?
You have to completely recalibrate your brain for 1946 basketball. Just throw out all your modern expectations of what a stat line should look like.
Okay, recalibrate me. Why is 4 points per game actually impressive?
Well, first of all, there is no shot clock. A team could take a tiny lead and then literally just hold the ball at midcourt for 5 minutes without shooting.
Wow, just stalling.
Exactly. Games often ended with final scores like 45-40. Second, the paint under the basket was an absolute war zone. The rule was basically no blood, no foul. If you drove to the basket, you were getting hammered.
So overall scoring was artificially low across the entire board?
Exactly. The very best players, the league leaders, were only averaging maybe 10 or 12 points a game. So if you were dropping 4 or 5 points a night, you are a very solid contributor. You're a starter or a key rotation player.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
But more importantly than the scoring, King wasn't brought in to shoot the ball. He was brought in to stop people.
Ah, he was a defensive specialist.
He was the enforcer. Lester Harrison, the owner, knew the league was extremely rough. He needed a guy who was 6'4", 215 pounds to clear out space and grab rebounds. King was out there doing the dirty work. He was essentially the Dennis Rodman or the Draymond Green of 1946.
That actually makes the integration aspect even more intense, doesn't it? I mean, if you are a pure scorer, you can maybe avoid some contact, you shoot from the outside. But if your specific job is to be the enforcer and you are one of the only black men on the court,
you are a massive target. Every single hard foul he gave, every rebound he fought for in the paint, had intense racial undertones from the crowd and the opposing players.
The pressure must have been suffocating.
He had to walk an impossible razor's edge. He had to be physical enough to do his job effectively, but disciplined enough not to retaliate when he was inevitably cheap-shotted by white players. The mental toughness that required is just off the charts.
And he succeeded. He helped them get to the playoffs. He wasn't just a passenger on that team.
The Royals were one of the very best teams in the league. He was contributing to winning basketball at the absolute highest level available in the world.
Okay, so we have established he is a legitimate, barrier-breaking, pro basketball player. But this is the part of the deep dive where the story just gets absurd again.
Yes, the twist.
Because usually, when the grueling basketball season ends in the spring, you rest, you heal your battered knees, you go on vacation.
Not Dolly King.
So what does he do?
Well, we have to talk about the economics of the era. In 1946, you couldn't just retire on a basketball salary. It didn't pay millions. Most guys had summer jobs. Some worked in factories, some sold insurance. Dolly King's summer job was being a professional baseball player.
And to be clear, we aren't talking about semi-pro local sandlot games here.
No, absolutely not. He played in the Negro leagues, and he played for the Homestead Grays.
For the listener who doesn't know baseball history, how big a deal are the Homestead Grays?
They are the New York Yankees of black baseball. They're a dynasty. Josh Gibson played for the Grays. Cool Papa Bell. These are mythical Hall of Fame figures.
Wow.
For King to just walk onto that roster means he was truly elite. You don't just try out for the Homestead Grays and make the team unless you are a serious generational talent.
And he didn't just play for them. He also played for the New York Black Yankees and the New York Cubans. This was from roughly 1944 to 1948. So there was this massive overlap where he is playing pro basketball in the winter and pro baseball in the summer.
Think about the biomechanics of that for a second. In baseball, you're tracking a small white ball moving at 90 miles an hour. It is all about hand-eye coordination, quick twitch reactions, and rotational power in your swing.
Right.
In basketball, it's about verticality, lateral movement, and cardiovascular endurance. To switch back and forth every 6 months, you never let your body adapt to one sport. You are in a constant state of physiological flux.
And a constant state of forward motion, too. The travel schedule for the Negro Leagues was arguably even more brutal than the barnstorming basketball circuit.
It was unrelenting. We are talking over 100 games a summer. They would regularly play 3 doubleheaders in 3 different cities in 3 days.
That's 6 games in 3 days.
Yes. It was a grind that physically broke people. And King was doing this year-round. No off-season to rest, just switching uniforms and getting right back on the bus.
It really reframes that Iron Man story from college, doesn't it? That wasn't a one-time stunt to impress a coach. That was literally just his life.
It was survival. He was maximizing his earning potential while his body held up. He was an athletic mercenary in the very best sense of the word.
Eventually, though, Father Time remains undefeated. The late 40s and early 50s come around, and he starts to wind down his playing career. He plays for some lesser-known teams like the Dayton Wrens and the Scranton Miners.
Right, the journeyman phase. He is just squeezing the very last drops out of the orange before he has to hang it up.
But he doesn't leave the game entirely. He transitions to the sidelines. From 1964 to 1969, he is the head coach at Manhattan Borough Community College.
Which is such a beautiful full-circle moment.
Yeah.
He is back in New York City, passing on all that hard-earned knowledge to the next generation of young men.
Yeah.
You can only imagine the stories he could tell those kids. You know, they complain about running laps, and he could say, oh, you think practice is hard? Let me tell you about the time I played the Harlem Globetrotters and then drove 300 miles through the night to play the Kansas City Monarchs in baseball.
But sadly, he didn't get to be the old sage of the game for very long.
No. And this is the real tragedy of his story.
He passes away in 1969 from a heart attack.
He was only 55 years old.
That just hits hard. 55 is so young.
It forces you to ask some really uncomfortable questions. Did the lifestyle contribute to his early death? The constant stress of navigating segregation? The sheer lack of rest? The physical toll of playing 2 professional sports year-round for over a decade?
You have to imagine it played a role.
We can't know for absolute sure from a medical standpoint, but it's hard not to see a strong correlation there. He gave everything to the game, quite literally.
And he died right before the NBA exploded into the mainstream consciousness. He missed the Magic Johnson and Larry Bird era. He missed Michael Jordan. He completely missed the era of big television money.
He was part of the generation that planted the tree so that others could sit in the shade.
But he wasn't entirely forgotten by history. In 1992, New York City tried to set the record straight. He was posthumously inducted into the New York City Basketball Hall of Fame.
And you always judge a man by the company he keeps. Look at who he was inducted with in that specific class.
William Pop Gates.
An absolute legend of the game.
Red Sarachek. And his old college coach, Claire B.
These are the fundamental architects of New York basketball. By putting King in that class, the committee was firmly saying, this man belongs on the Mount Rushmore of city hoops. It validates everything we have been discussing today. He wasn't a footnote. He was a headline that people simply forgot how to read.
So we have covered the Iron Man college game, his time with the Rens, breaking the color barrier in the NBL, and playing for the Homestead Grays. It is a resume that genuinely sounds like fiction, but as we wrap up, I want to end with the thought experiment for you and for the listener.
Okay, let's hear it.
We established that he was 6'4", 215 pounds,
Yeah.
built like a linebacker, but moved like a point guard. And that was in 1940, eating steak and eggs and wearing flat canvas shoes.
Right.
If you take Dolly King's DNA, that incredible frame, that natural, endless engine, and you drop him into 2024, you give him modern plyometric training, you give him a dedicated nutritionist, you put him in a Division I program with a high-end strength coach, what kind of athlete are we actually looking at?
That is a fascinating question, because today, 6'4" isn't a center anymore. But a 6'4", 225-pound athlete, assuming modern weights, with elite lateral agility. In football, you are looking at an NFL strong safety who can cover absolutely anyone on the field. Or in the modern NBA, you are looking at a Russell Westbrook or an Anthony Edwards type of player, a power guard who just bullies people going to the rim.
Or maybe a Deion Sanders or a Bo Jackson type of figure. Someone who literally plays both professional sports simultaneously simply because they are just that much better than everyone else alive.
Exactly. With modern sports science, keeping his body healthy and recovering properly, he would be a global superstar. He had all the raw materials. He just happened to be born 60 years too early to maximize them financially and culturally.
That is the ultimate takeaway for me. Dolly King is the bridge. He connects the gritty, segregated barnstorming era to the polished, highly televised global game we watch today. You really cannot understand the modern NBA without understanding the guys who played in those smoky gyms and cages back in 1946.
Absolutely. History is never a straight line. It is built entirely on the backs of guys like King who broke down the heavy doors so that others could comfortably walk right through.
A true pioneer and the ultimate Iron Man. William Dolly King.
A name that is definitely worth remembering.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We'll see you next time.